Good morning. How is everyone? How is everyone? Good. All right. I see the back table's all filled out. We were noticing because everybody was afraid to sit in the front. So those in the back, you're going to get called on more today. So be prepared. So make sure you drink your coffee back there. I'm going to make sure our guest speakers call on you. Well, I want to welcome all of you. I was thinking about something this morning as I was driving here. I have some people that I really need to thank today, but I think I really want to start off by thanking all of you who have been coming here, whether it's your first workshop or your fourth workshop, because it takes a lot of commitment to come out, and you all are the first responders, and we recognize that because you're the ones who are going to make a huge impact out there in the community. And hopefully these workshops, you've all gained a little bit of knowledge from them. We've had some terrific speakers. Dr. Asim Shah, who was here, our first guest speaker, I think he imparted so much information, and he's going to be coming later on today and speaking with us once again, so we're excited to have him come back. But I do want to applaud all of you who've made this effort to be out here, and thank you so much. So give yourselves an applause. Okay? And then I want to make sure that I acknowledge the folks that have been really working hard on making sure these workshops are here for all of us. And Dr. Waji, Irfan Ali, Mahtab, and Hina Azam back here. I want to just acknowledge all of their work. They've done a fantastic job on all of this. And now I got to go to my notes for this, okay? All right. So, because if I miss anybody, I'll shame. Okay. I want to acknowledge Dr. Shah, who's here as the CEO of the Ibn Sina Foundation. Where are you, Dr. Shah? Right here. Okay. And then Mark, the CEO of the Rupani Foundation. The Counselor of Economic Affairs from the Indonesian Consulate. I am so sorry, I didn't get a name, but I know that you're here. Ms. Karima. Rima. Thank you so much. I apologize, I didn't get your name. And then lastly, I want to acknowledge our guest speaker. Well, actually, two more people here. I want to acknowledge our guest speaker today, Sarah Whitmire. Thank you so much for joining us. And then the CEO of Rupani Foundation. Oh, I'm sorry. But Mr. Rupani, will you please stand for a moment? The chair. And I've asked him to stand last because honestly, we have this platform to be able to do these workshops and empower the community on mental health, and it's very much because Mr. Rupani has allowed us all of that. So I really want to thank you very much for what you've allowed us to do. Thank you. Now I've thanked everyone, so now let's get to the meat of this, okay? Am I passing the torch on to you? All right, Dr. Waji will take over.
Thank you, Munir. Good morning to all of you, and welcome back to the Oasis Center, a center for intellectual development. We're here to share whatever knowledge we have, experiences that we have. So we're all in this humanity together, and the better we understand each other, the more peaceful this world will be. And that really is the ethos of the Oasis Center. Like Munir said, right to the meat of it. I don't have potatoes, I just have meat. So we'll move on. This is a short presentation, just summarizing what we have done in the last 3 workshops that we have. The manuals that you have on your tables have a summary of the 3 seminars, and we will email you the summary of the 4th one, but we wanted you to take home something that would be useful when you do your own presentations. So for me, and there is another item that I want to introduce. You will leave here with a jump drive or a thumb drive. I don't know what it's really called, but there are different names. Different people call it, but you know what I mean, a USB drive. And that USB drive is a valuable piece. Please don't put it in your pocket and forget it. We worked hard to create this. Everything that we have, the videos, the manuals, the questionnaires, everything that we have done in the last 3 workshops is on that jump drive. And that jump drive is going to help you when you present to your communities, whether you need a PowerPoint, it's there. You need a video to play, it's there. So everything that we have here is, on that particular drive. And as far as, I'm concerned, we are here for you to reach out to Irfan and really make sure that the presentations that you do are powerful, impactful in your own communities, because that really is the ethos and the basis why we've had these 3 seminars or 3 workshops. Mr. Rupani, would you like to come and say a few words before I delve into the meat of it?
Thank you, Dr. Waji. I don't want to take too much of your time, but especially thank you all for taking time out and joining us here, because I believe because you all care. You care about your communities, and that's why you're here. So thank you again for your commitment to your communities. I just want to really thank the organizers, our team of Ibn Sina and team of Rupani Foundation. Thank you, doing a great work. This is really a I would say foundation that we are laying to understand how we can help you to reach out to your communities, because you are part of the communities, and then you will be able to convey our message at the masses in your community. So thank you again for all the commitment that you provide, and I want to thank both Ibn Sina, Rupani Foundation, and Dr. Walji's participation in this program. But this is, I believe, will help, continue to help extended families. And if you need anything from us, we will be able to provide you and technical support when you are delivering into your communities. But thank you very much, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rupani, but obviously we'll call you back for some closing words. So thank you for that. So if this technology works, for me. So, as I summarize the 3 sessions that we've had, here is a question: that when was the last time that you checked on your mental health with as much urgency as your physical health? You break a leg, you go to the hospital. You break your heart, you don't do anything. And that's the stigma that we have tried during these seminars or these workshops to actually pass on, so that when you go back to your communities, that stigma is the biggest roadblock when we talk about mental health. And I think everybody will attest to that is something that we need to overcome. So we're hoping that with these sessions, we're now ready to change that narrative that mental health is something that can be discussed, should be discussed, and must be discussed amongst communities. So are we ready? Are we ready for that challenge? Yes. And shortly we will call each one of you, or some of you, to come and present as to how you would present to your communities. We've got some volunteers, and then we'll try and find some others, who are ready and willing to do this. So, to summarize, we'd like to thank Dr. Asim Shah, who is going to be here shortly. But really, for those of you who did not attend, one or the other seminars, I thought it would be a good idea just to very quickly summarize what we did in the last 3 workshops. Although, as I said, the manual that you have has an excellent summary that's been prepared by the team for you to refer to. So really, the key points with Dr. Shah were, he gave us an overview of mental health and its importance in well-being. He was able to categorize, and the categories are in your book, of the prevalence of these. He offered some treatment options. Now that's not for us to treat. We are not here to treat. Our job is to mentor. That's why we call ourselves mentors. But at least we need to understand what's available so that we are able to guide people in the right way. And we're hoping today that Sarah will give us a further insight into when to look for help, where to look for help, and so on and so forth. And lastly, he gave us a call to action. That call to action was early intervention. There's an excellent course, some of you may have done it. It's called the Mental Health First Aid, MHFA. And MHFA is really designed to actually spot the very early signs of mental health. And if you have not done that course, we encourage you. I believe that Ibn Sina offers that course, the MHFA course. Dr. Hina is here. She's an expert on that. She's a trainer. I earnestly urge you to do that course, because that is going to help us all in terms of getting to the very first signs of any mental health issues. So that was Dr. Shah. We then had a phenomenal presentation on mastering emotions and stress. And this was something very different. Normally when people talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about Myers-Briggs and we talk about the theory and all that. Here we had an expert, somebody who really knew what the subject was. And really she mentioned that emotional intelligence is not your Myers-Briggs, your MBTI, your INFJs and all that. Emotional intelligence is much more, that it is a critical skill for success. That is what she taught us. And then it was a wonderful opportunity, and the video is there. The video is on your jump drive. How do you manage stress? Through some practical strategies, particularly the 2-minute body scan, and you listen to her, it's very interesting. You can have the 2-minute body scan, those of you who were here during Dr. Ketan's presentation will recall. And of course, the whole idea is that emotional intelligence means that you are actually using stress as a tool for growth, which was, quite phenomenal to say that there is good stress and there is bad stress. And you need the good stress in order to grow. And this was Dr. Ketan. And finally, we came to the final part of the workshops with myself and my partner in crime, Mahtab, who's done a phenomenal job. And each time I call her in the middle of the night, as I say, that Mahtab, how about this? And she's there answering the call. So thank you, Mahtab, being a partner. But essentially, we talked about how do we address the stigma and barriers, particularly within our communities. And also, the idea of culturally sensitive communication. Normal training in this country is aimed at a particular demographic, and sometimes we miss the nuances of cultural sensitivity. I gave an example that meeting the eye for a Muslim woman is not something that she would do. And if they do not meet the eye, a counselor or somebody who is not culturally sensitive will interpret that quite differently. So these are some of the things that we talked about. And then obviously, the most important part for us was your role as mentors, as influencers, to go back to your communities and deliver what we have shared here together. And today we'll see some samples, hopefully, of what we're doing. And finally, Mahtab did a phenomenal job in addressing the idea of what we call strategies for creating safe spaces for open communication, because that is where the stigma evaporates. If there is a safe space for open communication. So in very briefly, with 6 hours or almost 8 hours that we have already spent, I've tried to capture that in a few minutes because we have a long agenda today. I don't want to belabor on this, but this is to give you an idea of what we have been able to accomplish. We hope that you found these 3 workshops useful and you'll find the 4th one equal. So, finally, question. I began with a question, I'm ending with a question. This is not just an individual challenge. It's not my challenge, it's not your challenge. It's a challenge for our society. It is a collective responsibility that we do something about this. And that is why, as Mr. Rupani said, you're here because you care. You spent your Saturday morning here because you believe in this cause, and we're hoping that you will be those mentors. So together we can break that silence, we can eliminate that stigma, and now it's for us to go out after this to actually look at what small steps can we take today to make that change within our communities. Let me rephrase, not to make change, but to actually transform. The difference between change and transform is that a change is that maybe you can go back to your old ways. A transformation is like a butterfly that emerges out of the cocoon. It cannot go back being a butterfly. And that is a transformation that we look for in these awesome mentors that we have in front of us. With that said, I'd like to again thank everyone, and we will be thanking everyone towards the end. But without further ado, I'd like to invite Sarah and Mahtab here to please commence the next session of our agenda. Please welcome them with a loud.
Thank you, Dr. Waji, for capturing what I think we all accomplished together. There's no such a thing as doing something transformational by one person's actions. I'm very elated and grateful to be in this space with you guys. When we had the Interfaith Conference, we had a vision. And sometimes when you align your vision with good intentions and your heart and soul, and you end up in better places than you ever thought. We've made a lot of good friendships. This has been beyond a safe space. The phone calls are happening, great ideas are being exchanged, and communities are being impacted. So I'm truly grateful to you guys. Public speaking is not my favorite thing, so I've grown to a little bit during this process. I am privileged to end this series with a presentation by Sarah, who's a counselor. She's also a supervisor. I think the only way we can grow is to know who to call. We're not going to be experts. Even you consider me an expert in marriage and the family. There's still questions I have. I call my colleagues. Let's just start talking together and not be shy, and know that you have the resources. I represent both Rupani Foundation and Sina. I am crazy about my work, and I do answer calls at all times. In fact, I did a behavioral health screening on my way here. I pulled over to the Target parking lot because somebody had a high score on a PHQ. So we're here for you. We don't need to have it all sorted out, but together we probably have all the answers, and that's a very important takeaway. So Sarah, please join us. We are delighted to learn from you and expand our orbit, our resources in this community. Thank you so much.
Information in this slide, but we don't have to make it that formal. I also would love to hear from you any questions you have about finding a therapist for people that you're looking for. My slide is about identifying the need for professional help, and I am a professional therapist. I worked most of my life in nonprofit and in juvenile justice before going to private practice in 2018, and then in 2020 I opened my own practice because I wanted to be able to make a difference. And part of that includes taking insurance, because a lot of providers don't, and that's stuff we will get into today, because that is one of the hardest problems in finding a therapist that you feel comfortable with, but being able to afford and know how to get that outreach. So it sounds like y'all really covered a lot of mental illness issues previously, but in the next slide I did start talking about signs to look for in those you care about.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I know some of it by heart, so we'll do that. So a lot of people with depression or anxiety, things that you'll look for within those friends are changing. You know these people, they're people you care about. If they have a change in their daily lives and their activities, all of a sudden they're isolating, they're not reaching out, their daily lives are impacted, their relationships are impacted, they're pulling away their distance. Hygiene is one thing you'll notice. Somebody that usually prepares for work, a coworker in a certain way, all of a sudden looks very different when they're coming in. Not brushing their hair. And teenagers, brushing teeth is a big one. But I mean, probably in anybody, because those are the things you stop caring about when you're having depression, anxiety, issues that are affecting your daily life. Things that seem so easy to us, no big deal. We wake up, we get ready for work, we brush our teeth, we do this. That's not what's on their mind, because they have a big cloud, you could say, over them. So those day-to-day activities are just not working for them. Anxiety affects a humongous amount of people, and I would add since COVID, and unfortunately with social media, it is now affecting even more people. A lot of women, but men as well, comparing ourselves to what we see on social media. Am I doing everything that the mom next door is doing? Am I preparing for the holidays the same way? Comparing ourselves and feeling inadequate is a huge one. And you don't have to have a mental health diagnosis to feel inadequate and non-validated, and those are the things that affect all of us. From corporate to moms at home with kids, everybody, I would say at some point, self-esteem is affected and you feel invalidated by the world, because unfortunately, once we're out of school, we don't have people around us to tell us what a great job we're doing every day. When does your boss call you in? When something's gone wrong, most likely, not to be telling you the great job you just had. So, we'll just go through these quickly. I already mentioned, so things to look for when somebody is struggling with mental health issues. Changes in sleep habit or appetite. Sleep changes could be they can't sleep at all, or all of a sudden they're sleeping a whole lot. In teenagers, maybe they're coming home from school, taking a nap, waking up, eating dinner, and going back to bed. That's not normal. Isolation, stop engaging in favorite activities. This is something to check in with yourselves if you're struggling. Do things that used to bring you joy now? Because if they don't, then we have a situation. Why are you not feeling joy from those things? You used to love to engage in reading a book, but now you don't find time to do it. Your favorite hobbies, you'd rather lay in bed that extra hour than get up and go to do your workout or whatever it is that you enjoy. Mood swings, I mean, that's hopelessness, pretty obvious ones. Mood swings in teens, when we think of depression, we think of crying and being sad all the time. It can be irritability and come across as anger as well. They no longer want to listen to what you have to say. Asking them how their day of school was all of a sudden is a blow up. That's a sign something's going on. Lack of motivation is a big one for all age ranges. Again, motivation to get ready for your day, or motivation for things you used to enjoy. For parents, motivation to do things for your kids. It just feels overwhelming and like a job now. That's when things are getting heavy. Focus and concentration. We think of maybe attention issues with that, but all mental health issues can cause concentration and focus issues, because when you have so many things on your mind, you're not focused on that one thing. We're gone now? Luckily, I like to talk. Physical symptoms with no clear cause. We don't talk enough about how mental health and physical health are all interrelated, and I could add spiritual health to all that as well. When one is faltering, they all end up being affected. So again, somebody that's getting constantly ill, going to the doctor and they cannot find a cause, a whole lot of physical pain, that can be caused from stress, anxiety, depression, all of it. In the next slide, I did just break down with children and teens, a little different than just adults overall. But honestly, I feel like these slides for these specific age ranges could be going I was gonna pull it up on my cell phone if I needed to. So with children, it can be negative self-talk, excessive worry about the future. During the pandemic, all of a sudden worried about germs, which actually the pandemic caused a lot of hypochondriac type issues with all age ranges. All of a sudden very concerned about germs and other illnesses. Poor self-esteem. Again, I would argue in all age ranges, that is something that in an invalidating world we all struggle with. Self-destructive talk or behaviors, constantly seeking information from social media or the news. That's also, as adults, we don't unplug, correct? If before bed you are scrolling until you pass out, you're avoiding sitting with yourself, I might argue. So again, are we trying to distract all the time? Clinginess and regression. Children can start acting like, oh my gosh, I thought we were through this stage. But all of a sudden they're back at it. Regression is a sign that they have some stressors going on. And again, unexplained physical symptoms. So I have dyslexia. It's a learning disability. I was not diagnosed. They missed me in kindergarten. I couldn't read. They didn't know it. They passed me on up. And on Fridays, we would do a spelling test where you all have to stand up. The first one that sits down, I was the first one that sat every Friday. But I couldn't articulate that to my parents. But my mom would take me to the doctor because every Friday I would have a severely sick stomach. We didn't know why. Look, years later, it's because I was the first one to sit down every Friday. So every time they'd be like, spelling bee time, let's stand up. I wanted to run and disappear. But I couldn't even explain that because A, I was in first grade. B, I was undiagnosed, so we didn't even know. So basically, I thought something was wrong with me. Why was I not smart enough to learn? When it was I just needed to be taught a different way. Teens, again, irritability. We think, oh, they're just going through it, and if they were depressed, they'd be crying. No, sometimes it's shouting and screaming and just being angry. Changes in sleep pattern, mood, sudden withdrawal from social activities or peers. A big switch in peer groups can be a sign. Like, oh, they had these friends forever, and now all of a sudden they're uninterested in them at all. That's a sign. It was just a noticeable decline in academic performance, and then I'd argue with adults, coworkers, if all of a sudden their work performance is just off, all of a sudden they're not putting effort into it. And with kids, that would be in school, teens as well. So we know mental illness affects so many people. I was writing down some stats before I came up here. 55% of adults that have mental health conditions are not treated. And we know that there are 23.1% of U.S. population suffers from mental illness. But that's diagnosed again. That doesn't mean that's everybody, because there are all the people that are undiagnosed that we do not have stats for. So just as of 2020, and I would say 2020 was the beginning of a shift. I think mental illness started skyrocketing even more, but in 2020 we knew 18.4 U.S. adults have been diagnosed with depression. And again, that's diagnosed. That's not all the people that are struggling to get up every day, but nobody's checked in, offered them resources, and they just think something's wrong with them. And anxiety disorders, which I could go into, I think this number is totally off because again, now that we have technology, social media, all the things that unfortunately are making us compare us and kids. So our frontal lobe isn't fully developed till age 25. How old are kids when they're getting onto social media, on smart devices, etc.? That's an undeveloped brain. We don't know yet the full implications of everything that's going to go on there. So 19.1% of U.S. adults have an anxiety disorder at this point. And generalized anxiety, I would argue, is on the skyrocket. That just means it's not a phobia, it's not a specific thing that's making them anxious. They just wake up anxious. And everything feels overwhelming that day. So, if more than 20% of U.S. adults live with some form of mental illness, only 10.1% are actually getting therapy. And that is just people in therapy in general. That's not, they're in therapy because they were diagnosed. Some people, luckily, more younger kids these days, parents put them in because they notice there's an adjustment issue, etc. But these aren't people that necessarily, there's a lot that need to be in therapy that are not, is where I'm going with that point. And data shows 75% of people who receive psychotherapy actually do see improvements. And we know there's great outcomes, but we're not getting people into therapy, unfortunately. And my last point was just, again, Almost a third of adults with mental health conditions report not being able to get treatment that they need. Unfortunately, again, okay, I've acknowledged now I have something that needs treated. Where do I go from here? And before we get into how to get therapy, why do people not get therapy? Cost is a big one. I've already covered that one. Can they take my insurance? Do I even know how to find somebody that takes my insurance? And where do I find a therapist? And I mean, would you know? I should ask that. Anybody in here, if you needed a therapist, where would you look? That's a great one. Love that. Psychology Today is an amazing answer. You know that. Anybody else? A friend needs a therapist, where would you refer them? They do have therapy services, yeah.
I did. I personally did. I did.
Yes, so that's a great one too. And most people need to use insurance, which I could go into a very long spiel about how insurance doesn't pay therapists enough and enough therapists don't take insurance, but that's not what this conference is about. So, cost is a big issue. Then we also have logistics. So personally, when I need therapy, I take it on my lunch break. So, telehealth has been great for that because we can't drive across town all the time to get help. I will say, since I did not offer telehealth prior to COVID-19, and it has opened my eyes. It has made it much more doable. Everybody can pull over in their car and talk to their therapist for 45 minutes if need be. We can make time. Stigma, that's why we're all here, right? Is the main reason a lot of people do not get therapy. What will others think? What's wrong with me if I need therapy? And again, the doctor already mentioned this, but it's so great. If there was a medical condition, a broken bone, asthma, or allergic reaction, you wouldn't hesitate to see a professional. Why is there a difference when it comes to mental health? Why is something not okay with you? And if you have friends and family, why do I need a therapist? Because again, we'll get into this, but an unbiased, non-emotionally involved person is necessary. And I would argue your friends and family don't have HIPAA. We ethically are not allowed to tell anybody anything you say in session, which is amazing. So how do you find a therapist? These are just more of things to consider because I'm not going to overwhelm you with different types, cognitive behavioral versus dialectical therapy. It doesn't matter, but things to consider. If you trauma therapist versus somebody for anxiety, just finding a therapist is step one. Consider your insurance and finances. There are sliding fee scales, which we'll get into. Not all therapists take insurance, but a lot will offer you a reduced fee based on income for people that need it. And there are community mental health centers. So, online database, trust your gut and rapport. If somebody has a therapist, if somebody gives you a personal referral, are you much more likely to go? Yes, because we want somebody we trust. So, step one is y'all believing in therapy. Because you can't tell somebody they should get therapy if you yourselves don't believe therapy is a validating thing. So, everybody needs to be more open to getting treatment. So, we were saying before, how would you find a therapist? Call your insurance provider. That's step one. If you have insurance, not everybody does. And if you have Medicaid or Medicare, that's even a little more tricky, but there are clinics that do take it. People don't probably know enough about employee assistance programs, EAPs. A lot of corporate jobs, or jobs in general, will have EAPs. They will pay for your therapy for 4 or 6 sessions usually. You don't even pay a copay in that situation. But you'd have to know how to access these resources. / have these resources, which means a job that offers them. A lot of jobs don't offer those, or insurance, unfortunately. And that's when we get into community health partners. Ivan Foundation, the Harris Center, Legacy Community Mental Health, Hope Center, and Access Health. And there's other ones out there that y'all, if you look within your own community, could refer people to. I don't know the specifics in every area, and I wish I did. But if y'all would find ones that you trust in your community, that's who people would listen to, who you recommend. And Psychology Today was amazing. If you go on, every therapist in the city just about is on there. And you can feed through what you want, what language they speak, if they take benefits, insurance, etc. I'm on there. That's where I don't know a therapist not on there. So how do you talk to somebody about therapy? And I go back to what I said a minute ago, you have to believe in it yourselves. Because if you're telling somebody you don't have judgment and they should go to therapy, and they're like, oh, well, what about you? And you're like, oh, I don't need therapy. That's not going to be a selling thing. So, A, choose the right time. Obviously, this isn't like a conversation we have in front of everybody. Like, why haven't you seen your therapist? Find a private and safe place for the conversation. Approach the conversation with care and concern, not judgment. Not something's wrong with you, you need help. It's no, I care about you. I'm concerned. This could be a helpful thing for you. Share your own experience. Again, I think everybody should have a therapist. That's biased because I am a therapist, but therapists have therapists as well. I practice what I preach. I need somebody to check in with. My whole family needs a therapist, which everybody's family does. Share your own experience. Just handled that one. Be aware of common fears and misconceptions. The whole reason we're here, so that we can express to these people, it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. That's not why you need therapy. You need therapy because it's a professional that is here to help and we have gone to school to help you understand. We're not going to fix you. We're going to help you understand what needs to change and help you figure out what those steps are. Nobody's here to tell you what to do. Quit your job, get a divorce, stay, all those things. No, we're going to work together. We're going to have open communication and validate the struggles that you're going through. Offer help finding resources. Again, there's a ton of resources. I have the slide available. I put links to as many as I could come up with the community mental health services. But the more we in here share resources, the more we can help others get those. Be gentle when you offer support on their journey. Remind them what they will gain, and know when to stop. If somebody doesn't want help, they don't want help, and we can't make them be ready. But we can be there and offer our support, and that's what we can control. So yes, the next one, I just put links to all these great resources. So there are also nonprofits out there that have peer support, support groups, individual therapy, couples therapy, and NAMI is a great place to start as well. National Alliance of Mental Health, Greater Houston is one area. This is a link to their page of all the resources. Somebody has already mentioned Mental Health America of Greater Houston. Tons of amazing resources and opportunities there. Easter Seals is another one. The Council on Recovery, I didn't even touch, and mental health and substance use has huge correlating factors, and the Council on Recovery is a great place for that. Mosaics of Mercy, and again, these were just the ones that I came up with easily. There are a ton more resources, and I know that they're being provided for y'all today as well. I should circle all the way back around. So do you all have questions about how to find a therapist that somehow I could help? Because every community is different, and everybody has their own individual struggles with that.
I think in doing this journey with patients at Sina, the collaborative care is very good in helping people get them put in. So we use the screening tools to kind of start that conversation for folks who would usually not go there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think in spaces like this where we are transparent about our journey, I kind of want someone here to go into their experience, because I was an in-house counsel for a recruitment firm in Houston for about 2 years, and oftentimes we think we need to be in big trouble or in some kind of emotional pain to get counseling or coaching. So when we want to tell them your experience, I was her coach for 2 years, and she went through a teen pregnancy, single person. Yeah, so is it okay if she shares, because it's the opposite of what most people think of therapy, but.
All right, yeah, so I actually was working with Mahtab while she was helping me. I was a first-time mom, so it was in a new career, first-time mom, also just lots of different things with family issues going through that were affecting my work, and also just finding the kind of self-confidence after having a child, kind of figuring out what's my role now. I'm a new parent, so she helped me through that in a lot of ways to set boundaries that I think really helped with kind of my own sanity, because I was letting, different people, you think, okay, for example, I have a great relationship with my mom, but sometimes boundaries were crossed that would affect me mentally. So she helped me with setting up those boundaries so that it was putting me in a better place, so that I could be a better, mother, a better wife, and a better just coworker in general, a better friend, because I was able to kind of clear my head. That's probably one of the number one examples that you helped me with.
I also like that. So Sam is, her marriage is, she was in a duality. So she married into a Hispanic family, and so there was a lot of cultural nuances that we navigated. But from the outside, she's a A&M business graduate, high honors, like a superstar. But we met weekly, so you can stay a superstar. So, thank you.
I could go back to just sharing my story with therapy. My dad's the mayor. Funny story. We used to get into it as teens, and he forced me. My mom and dad decided I should go to family therapy when I was a senior, I think. And I will tell you, I did not appreciate it at all, and now I'm a therapist, which is wild. So fast forward, I went to college and I was really struggling my sophomore year. If I looked back, it was anxiety. Anxiety was keeping me from wanting to leave the house and do the things I could do. And I took a semester off and had to go to the therapist's office twice a week at some point. Just getting there was the job, right? But then I ended up graduating with honors. So it affects everybody in so many different ways. There's not a right or wrong reason to go to therapy. Yes, maybe somebody is depressed and unfortunately getting towards suicidal thoughts. But there's also the people that are just dealing with life stressors and it's overwhelming and you're not happy anymore. And that's one reason to look into it. We should all check in with ourselves daily. If you don't know what's going on with yourself, you really won't know what's going on with those you care about. So if you're not sure about your own journey, do that first. And then we can start wanting to help all those around us. And there's so many great resources here to do that.
Now I think what we want to do is get some folks from the audience involved in what would a conversation look like in your communities, and how do we navigate that to start the conversation. I know some of you have tried the town hall suggestions with some of the resources. Yes.
My name is Zaida Kazak, and I am an advocate for domestic abuse organization. And there's a big stigma in mental health among Asian society. And the way we do it, we bring I don't want to say victims, we bring the survivors of each culture. It's like I want to share one of our experiences. We had in Middle East women, they don't want to talk about the trauma they've been in the domestic abuse. It's a shameful for them. And they are against domestic abuse or talking any of those. So the way we do it, we don't tell them, we do it like a secret therapy, just like a group therapy. We call all the women in the same culture, and we tell them it's like a fool, we just don't talk about it. And when they come with the counselor in a meeting, and they start to see the benefit of talking their trauma and the change, they could see the change what's happening in them. And that's how we address the situation, because it's very big stigma talking about the pain that you are going through. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how to get over there.